Actually see if okay.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Sunday, January the 14th, and we are back with another episode of the Vol Fanatic Show. I'm Michael. We got Skylar over there. Skylar, how we doing today, my man?
Dude, we are doing fantastic. Getting suited up for a long, cold week of weather coming up. We're ready, man. A lot of things happening this week, or this last week. I don't know if you realize, but the national championship game happened. Felt like it was felt like it was 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't realize that it was this past week until we got to talking about it. So,
No kidding. So we got that going on. We got the national championship game going or to talk about. Yeah. So yeah, man, a lot of things going on, and I can't wait to talk about it.
yep. Not to mention the biggest one of all, which will be our first topic today. Nick Saban retired this past week, so we'll get into all of that. Do you have a shout out to start off this episode here?
Dude, I actually do, man. Thank you for reminding me. I do a lot of networking throughout the week and did a little networking called IBN networking. Got to go out there, plug in my business, who I work for during the week. But while I was there, a lot of people actually asked about the podcast, man. Very intrigued about it. I showed them, I told them that, hey, like we're new, we're getting started, but they didn't care. They got on their phones, subscribed right away. I think we gained like 4 or 5 subscribers just from that meeting alone. And they said they'd be tuning in. So if you do tune in, thank y'all for joining. It's our first show since I met some of y'all, so thank y'all for tuning in. And guys, if y'all are new to here, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, if you like what we do and you're cool with the schedule, whether you work, listen to it later on, or if you're here live, man, we'd really appreciate a subscribe or a follow anyway to help us support us. What about you, Michael? Shout out of the week.
So I'm going to shout out Eric Boggs and the entire Ohio podcast who tuned in last week, and been talking to them throughout the week this past week, and not going to go into details about some of the stuff we got going on yet because there is still some things in the works, but just a little teaser for some of you out there that are watching. There's some big things coming, not only for the Vol Fanatic Show, but for some other podcasts as well, and we're in the works doing some of that right now. But a big shout out to Eric Boggs. He's kind of the ringleader behind it, and he sought us out about joining in on this new thing that we're going to be a part of coming up down the road. Like I said, nothing's finalized yet. Hopefully, the goal is after March Madness this year. Things are going to be on the up and up on this new thing that we're in the works of getting going.
Sounds like some exciting things coming up, dude.
Absolutely, I'm
It's
ready for it,
crazy.
man.
It's crazy how the show started out, just me and you making picks for football season, just trying to make it like a little friendly competition, and now it's grown to what it is now. And trust me, we're not where we really want to be. Like we want to keep this thing on an upward trajectory, but it's kind of crazy to think that we've already committed to doing this thing year round. And man, I'm excited for it. I'm ready to do it. We got some people tuned in. I appreciate you guys watching. Without further ado, I think it'd be crazy, even though we had a national championship game Monday. I think it'd be crazy not to start the show out without talking about the absolute GOAT of college football, Nick Saban, at the age of 72, deciding to step away, deciding to I guess go to that beachfront house of Miss Terry now and enjoy some life. But as we know, man, there's already been a new hire made, and it sounds like Nick Saban's still very much going to be hands on with the university and the program. But what are your initial thoughts of Coach Saban? What he's done for Alabama, even though we're Tennessee fans, we really hate what he did, but you can't deny how great he is, man.
Oh, as a Tennessee fan, I'm just gonna put it out there. I hate Nick Saban as a Tennessee fan, just because of the success that he has had against Tennessee, all the many years that he has beaten Tennessee. We've come so close a few different times, and things just happen. And I mean, Nick Saban's the GOAT, but as a person and as a college football fan, I respect the crap out of Nick Saban. Just you cannot deny all the things that he has done for the sport, what he has done for Alabama in general. There's no doubt he is the GOAT of really all football coaches, not just college football. Just football in general. He is the greatest of all time when it comes to that. And People said that what Bear Bryant did back in the day could not be replicated. Well, it has been replicated by Nick Saban, and the torch has been passed to Nick Saban as the greatest of all time. And we're going to get into some of that today. But my initial thought on it was, okay, is this for real?
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I saw the source, Chris Lowe, I said, there's no way this isn't real, because he is so close to the Alabama program, and Nick Saban pretty much comes to him anytime that there's any sort of information like this that comes out. And that's exactly what happened. Was Nick Saban came to Chris Lowe and was like, look, I'm giving you this. You do what you want to with it, but just give me some time to let my team know first. And I think it was like a half hour later, Chris Lowe broke the story. I was in shock. So what was your reaction to it all?
Yeah, I can't remember what I was actually doing during the moment. I may have even been working. I don't know what it was, but I I had like 5 text messages within 3 seconds. One of them was you, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like, Saban's retiring. It's over. Like, it's happening. And I kind of like blew it off. I'm like, nah, like that must be speculation. But no, like I got on my Instagram, I got on Facebook. It was like literally every single news feed or next post was all about Nick Saban retiring, stepping away. And, we can sit here and act like everybody's surprised by it. But honestly, I don't view it that surprising. This is something we've kind of been speculating that, to happen for the last 4 or 5 years. And we all know, and we've all talked about how dreadful this season was on him because of how much work he actually had to do. Not that he doesn't always do a lot of work, but where he took his team from week 2, week 3 to where he got that team at week 14, 15. And it's one of the biggest coaching, jobs ever. I honestly think he was very deserving for SEC, if not National Coach of the Year. And I mean, that's drooling. It's dreadful. But and I think he even alludes to that at the age of 72. That much that goes into it every day. I think he was talking about staying up till 1, 2 in the morning, and then waking up at 5 a.m. and doing it all over again. I mean, that's hard to do it at 22, 23, 24 years old, much less doing it at 72. So I'm very much shocked that it happened this year. I thought he was going to do it after another national championship because, I mean, at Alabama, it happens every 3 or 4 years. But I'm really happy for him. He did it on his terms when he wanted to. And how much of this was his decision or Miss Terry's? Both? What do you think?
So I do believe, after watching the interview with Reese Davis, a lot of it was his decision, just because he said in that interview that this season really wore him down. And we have been speculating about it all year, and we said this is the best coaching job that he has ever done because of what he has had to do to give his team success overall this year, the amount of work he has put in. And I think that kind of came to fruition during that interview. He said, it's just wore me out this year. And he said, I'm getting to the point where I feel like I can't give 100% of everything that I need to into it. And I told myself, as a younger coach, if I ever get to that point, it's time.
Yep.
There was a little story floating around that he was actually in the facility that morning, and he was working on, I don't know if it was hiring somebody on the staff or trying to get some recruits in or whatever.
He was reaching out to recruits, 100%. He was reaching out to recruits.
Yeah, so he was doing that. Then he went to lunch, and when he came back, that's when the news broke. So the story going around was, well, he went to lunch with Miss Terry, and while he was there, Miss Terry said, Nick, it's time. And when Miss Terry says it's time, it's time. So that was the story going around about that. But you mentioned that it happens every 3 or 4 years at Alabama that a national title is won. An interesting stat that I found out this past week was every player at Alabama that stayed for 4 years won a national title under Nick Saban.
If not more than one. Is that not
Yeah.
crazy? Is that not crazy?
That is insane.
Every single recruiting class that he recruited won a national championship if they stayed their, their
Yeah,
4
if they
years.
stayed 4 years.
Um, you realize how massive of a recruiting pitch that is when you can walk into somebody's living room and be like, "Hey, I can guarantee you at least one national championship if you come and play with us for 4 years, at least one." I mean, that's
Yeah.
insane. But I mean, we're talking about the goat of college football coaching. I kind of want to talk about it because you kind of alluded to it, man. 5-time SEC Coach of the Year. He won 11 SEC championships. He's got obviously 7 national championships. He got the one at LSU in 03, right? He started his coaching career at Toledo, and I didn't realize this. I thought he started at Michigan State. But he started at Toledo in 1990, where he went 9-2 in his lone year there. And from there, he went to the Cleveland Browns. If you remember with Bill Belichick, funny enough, he also retired or stepping away, however you want to take that. I think he's retiring, but for right now, he's no longer with the New England Patriots. But he went to the Browns to coach with him. He got back to Michigan State 95 to 99, where he went 34-24 at Michigan State. 34-24. That's the most human win-loss record Nick Saban had as a coach ever anywhere, right?
And here's the crazy thing, just looking at these records overall, the worst record that he ever had as a head coach in college? It was 6-6,
Six
and
and
he did
six.
it
He never
twice at
went.
Michigan State.
Yeah, I didn't think he went. He never went below 500.
He never went below 500 in a single season as a head coach. That is a crazy stat.
Yeah, I mean, from there, man, from Michigan State in '99, he went to LSU from 2000 2004. At LSU, he went 48-16, and then that's when he won that Natty in 03. And now after LSU, he tried the NFL thing again with Miami, but eventually came back. And we all know what happened after 2007 at Alabama, where he went from 07 to 2023, winning 6 more national championships, 11 SEC championships. I think he won 12 SEC West Division championships. Um, had 4 Heisman winners in that stint with Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Bryce Young, and Devontae Smith.
Yep.
I mean, just the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time. As much as I hated it, as much as we were always on the losing end of it, except 1 year. Except 1 year.
Yeah.
The last time
When he was at Alabama, anyway, Tennessee
Yeah.
did get him once when he was at LSU, but
Hey,
twice.
yeah, that is true. That is true. But no, man, just absolutely nothing but respect for Coach Saban, what he is, who he is, and what he was able to accomplish as a head coach. I know when Paul Bryant. What's crazy about you mentioned Paul Bryant, Bear Bryant, what he was able to do, how he was able to do it, the legend he became, but not only for Nick Saban to kind of surpass that, but surpass it at the place that Paul Bear Bryant did it. Like he literally followed in the footsteps and excelled, which is I think even a little bit harder to do. And no, man, just it's crazy. But Bama fans, I do want to mention something, just kind of take a little dive to it. Bama fans are acting like the dude died. It's kind of crazy. I don't know if you've seen, but they went out to like his memorial, left flowers and stuff like that, had signs up that says "We'll miss you" and stuff. I'm just like, yo, guys, he's still there.
Yeah.
He's still there. He's just not the head football coach anymore. I can't lie.
But
As a Tennessee fan, I was hoping that they would, lengthen out the coaching search a little bit. Like I was really enjoying the 24 hours that it took them to find another coach. But no, man, this is all about Coach Saban, what he meant to that program.
yeah, and you were one of the people that did this, but it's crazy to see how many fans of other teams just immediately were just like, yes, he is gone finally. So,
you must be alluding to that TikTok video I posted, guys.
yeah.
If y'all ain't following the TikTok at Vol Fanatic 343, man, I posted a video about it, and it was just a joking manner, and really, it was pretty much any fan base besides Alabama is kind of who I was alluding to, but basically, it was like I acted all sad knowing that he was retiring, but then when the bass drops in the song that was playing, I threw on the orange glass and said it was time to win a national championship. It's a funny video. It actually went pretty viral. I mean, it's almost got, I guess, 700 likes now. But that was a pretty fun take on it. But no disrespect to Coach Saban at all. In fact, that's actually more respect to who he is, what he meant, and knowing that. I mean, he was feared. I mean, I guess that's one thing I kind of want to talk about, man. Coach Saban was
Yes.
feared as a head football coach. You can say all you want to about how, the teams were leveling with NIL and that's why, whatever, dude. It doesn't matter. When a team lined up against Bama, they knew they had to face the best of the best. And that's why it was so important. I think that's what went into the final four teams this year and why they threw Bama in there is because, I mean, the national championship is not really going to feel deserved unless you had to play the best of the best. Now, Georgia and Kirby Smart has a great argument, but at the end of the day, they failed in the SEC championship and Bama came out on top. So, at the end of the day, man, Nick Saban was just that guy that you just knew, like you wasn't going to bet against him. Like every year, every season, growing up, because obviously we're younger guys. He took the Alabama job when we were about 7, 8 years old, and we had to grow up through that losing all the time.
Yep.
And just every year, you knew better than to bet against Saban, unless it was Auburn. But it's just crazy how guaranteed that man was at his job. You don't see anything like that ever.
No, no, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head there with how people were afraid to play Bama. I mean, you got Michigan fans out there saying that when they saw that they're going to be playing Bama for the semifinals, we alluded to it. Michigan was scared to death at that point. Of course, you got Michigan fans saying, "No, that was just that was a natural reaction. We're just like, okay, business as usual." No, you were scared to death to play Bama. Anybody in their right mind would be. And I mean, credit to Michigan. I mean, they completely dominated Alabama on the front end and ended up winning that game in overtime. But yeah, you said it. You had these LSU teams that had success. You had these Auburn teams that had success, and Georgia's starting to kind of get into that kind of area that Alabama has been in for so long. People are kind of scared to play Georgia, but still not for the same reasons that people are scared to play Alabama or were scared to play Alabama under Nick Saban. I mean, the name Nick Saban, whenever he comes to town, or if you're going to Tuscaloosa, there's a certain amount of fear that comes into your heart. And, teams are still going to look at that Alabama name and be like, okay, we got to, this is going to be a tough opponent. And I think that Kalen DeBoer is going to do a good job down there, but we'll get into that here in a few minutes. But it's not going to be the same as a Nick Saban led Alabama coming in. The fear factor of it is going to be totally different.
Well, and what he did to win games is so unlike any other coach you ever seen. I mean, think about what Alabama was in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just powerful running backs, man. Just bulldozing everybody at the line of scrimmage. And not to say that they wouldn't like that later on in the career, but you've seen how Nick Saban adapted his teams to fit the national perspective or whatever you have to do to win games. I mean, he changed everything about what he knew about football to make sure that he kept his program on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes him the GOAT is how many other coaches have you seen go out there and they have success and then once the game changes, they don't change with it.
So glad you asked that because one of the guys that I'm going to refer to is a guy that was somehow in this coaching conversation, which I would have loved as a Tennessee fan if he took it. But look at Dabo Swinney at Clemson.
Yes.
He did everything and he knows football. He's a great coach, right? But he is just refusing to change as a coach at his program. And what do they do this year? Go 8-4. A team that I think won 9 games or 10 games, like literally every season he's been there almost. That's a little skewed. I didn't do my research on that. But, you got to change. And he's not. He's refusing to go in the portal. And I mean, I get it. His beliefs, his system and everything. It's worked for him before. Why change now? Well, why change now is because that's where the sport's going. I mean, you're going to have to change or get left behind. It's like that in life, man. Look at all these small businesses that think, they don't necessarily think they have to be, online or have a presence online. But unfortunately, all these shoppers these days, where do they do their shopping? Right here on their phone. So if you
unfortunately, but
exactly, dude. So I mean, at some point, it's just I'm trying to put that in like a real life perspective. Not that this isn't real life, it really is, but you just got to be able to adapt, be able to change, and Dabo Sweeney's one of those guys, one of many really, that are just inapt to change, and you're seeing them kind of get left behind. I'm expecting big things out of Dabo this year because of the way this year went, but Nick Saban was one of those guys that never allowed that to happen. He always changed, always evolved. He went from one of the most boring but yet powerful offenses in the nation in like 2013, 14 with Blake Sims and stuff like they were doing some weird stuff, but they was working, right? And then they
Yep.
went to one of the most high flying offenses with, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, and Bryce Young. I mean, it's just crazy the 180 that offense took. And because he was so good at his job, he had to do it with a new offense coordinator like every year. Every defense, every year they were getting hired as we call it the rehab program, the Saban rehab program.
Mhm.
When a coach was failing, they go work with Saban for a year or two, learn under him, and that's how you see Kirby Smart, you see Lane Kiffin, you see Steve Sarkisian, getting these big jobs, and who did they get mentored by?
Nick Saban.
The greatest to ever do it.
Yep.
It's crazy, man. I love what he's done for the sport. But as a Tennessee fan, it is nice to be able to turn the page.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question before we move on to talking about the future with
Yeah, let's do it.
Kalen DeBoer. Your favorite moment, your favorite Nick Saban moment.
Yeah. For real?
What is
Okay.
yours?
All right. I got two moments. I told you, I think one of them pre-show.
Yeah.
One moment was in person. It's kind of a funny moment as a Tennessee fan. But in 2022, when we won that third Saturday in October in Neyland Stadium, the first time against Nick Saban at Alabama, early on in the game, I think it was first quarter, we came out shooting fireworks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had a punt, and one of the guys was an idiot and tried to like field the punt as it was just rolling, and he ended up fumbling. We get the ball back. As a Tennessee fan, I never was watching that play. I was watching Nick Saban the whole time just explode on the sideline because that was one of the best, funniest things. I mean, that was the one time in the first quarter of a football game I'm like, hey, we might have them. Like
Yeah.
we might have them, dude. Like they're pissed, and that was a great moment. But I think Nick Saban as a coaching moment is actually a recent one. Everybody knows the 2020 season, the COVID year, whatever, or I think it was right before the COVID year. It was the 2020 national championship, and Jalen Hurts has the starting job. He gets benched for Tua, and Jalen decides to actually stay that next season and hopes to fight for that starting job again, and ends up not winning the starting job. But lo and behold, I think it was the SEC championship, or was it the NAT? It was the SEC
It was
championship
the SEC
against Georgia. And Tua, I don't know if he got hurt. I think he got hurt. He went down. Jalen had to come back. He sat that entire season as the number 2 guy in his senior year, and he had to come back. His team needed him, and Nick Saban made the move. They came back, won. They might have even won the Natty that year. They did win the Natty that year. Just one of those things where Nick Saban got super emotional after that game. I think Josh Pate even alluded to this in his like special episode for Nick Saban.
Yeah.
But that was one of those coaching moves, one of those player to coaching relationship type things that is dying in today's sport, unfortunately. But that was one of the greatest moments I remember of Nick Saban, between player, coach, the sacrifices that had to be made, but the reward that came with it. Now, we all know that Jalen Hurts, after that season, graduated, transferred to Oklahoma. But, I mean, that's what he had to do. But the fact that he stuck around and ended up helping that team win a national championship as a backup quarterback, that was crazy. I think it's more of a testament to Jalen Hurts and Nick Saban, but it was really both of them that made that happen. And I don't think any other head coach in today's game, maybe besides Kirby, but even Kirby, I don't see it. It's just having that type of relationship with the player, knowing what you have to tell them, kind of have that dirty discussion with the player.
Mm-hmm.
And as wrong as it may feel, but knowing that things are going to be right. And I mean, look at what Jalen Hurts is doing now in the NFL. So that's probably the deep down coaching moments, best moments I remember of Nick Saban.
Yep.
So what about you?
I've actually got 3 moments that shows the 3 different sides of Nick Saban.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear it.
Yep. One of them you actually already said. It was that the angry Nick Saban on the sideline during that Tennessee game, just the outburst that he had, he was furious. And that was the moment that you realized that Josh Heupel in that game was out coaching Nick Saban. And it was what had happened before then, along with the the player just having that bonehead mistake, all of that just came into one, and he lost it on the sideline. So that was the angry Nick Saban. Then you have the funny Nick Saban. You probably remember the one practice that they were having, and of course, most coaches are out there on the field when things are going on, and Nick Saban was right in the middle of it, and actually got hit by one of his players during that practice. And they get into the press conference after practice that day, and the first thing he says is, "You should see the other guy because he's got a little bit of blood. I think he's got a black eye or something like that." And he just goes on there. And he's like, "Man, you should have seen the other guy." So that's the funny Nick Saban. But then you get the coach Nick Saban as the last one. It was after the 2021 national championship when Georgia beat Alabama. You got Bryce Young and Will Anderson sitting on either side of Nick Saban during the press conference. And the media is done asking them questions, so they get up to leave. And Nick Saban reaches out and grabs both of them and sets them back down. And he says, "I just want to say how much these guys mean to me, mean to this program, and all the things that they have done for this program. There's not enough words." And I'm not saying his exact words. I'm just I'm kind of paraphrasing it here, but he's like, "These guys mean so much to this program, and I cannot thank them enough." And if I was one of those players right there, and the greatest coach of all time is saying those words about me, that I probably would have broke out in tears just hearing that. That's the coach Nick Saban coming out there. So those are my three favorite moments of Nick Saban. There's many more that people could choose from, but those are three of my favorites right there.
Those are some good moments, man. And look at where B. Young and Will Anderson are now.
Yeah,
I mean, they were
absolutely.
top 10 draft picks in the NFL draft. And I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy just the machine that he built at Alabama. And, for other fans looking at this and thinking like, and I'm victim, but it was kind of a joke, but thinking that your team actually got better because of what's happened at Alabama within the last week, you're going to get a harsh taste of reality this coming year. I don't think Alabama's going anywhere. I think and let's go ahead and let's talk about it. They hired Kalen
Yep.
DeBoer as the next head coach at Alabama. I believe the 28th head coach at Alabama.
So first
Kalen,
off, what are your thoughts on that?
well, I think honestly, it's the best guy they could have got.
Yep.
It's the best guy they could have got. Everybody, I thought, and I told you this, and maybe I was just thinking crazy about Eli Drinkwitz, but I was kind of thinking like, who are some realistic options and who are some hot names? Eli Drinkwitz just had a hell of a season in Missouri. You had Mike Norvell at Florida State, and I kind of thought with what happened to them that maybe he wouldn't think that he wouldn't get the respect that he deserves unless he went to a Florida State's a powerhouse. I don't know how to explain it, but Mike Norvell, Dan Lanning shut the doors immediately. Mike Norvell did the same thing, and so I'm kind of like, okay, Lane Kiffin, like who are they going to get? And I'll be honest with you, even though Washington had just went to the national, I wasn't even thinking of their head coach, but they pulled the trigger, Kalen DeBoer, and um, he's a good guy. He's a likable guy. He's not crazy for attention like some head coaches out in the world.
You gonna call any names?
No, I'm not gonna call any. Everybody knows coach I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, he's just a likable guy. I think I do want to talk about this just because it happens, man. When you have a big program, when you have such a prestigious coaching job vacant that somebody needs to fill that spot, there's always going to be a program that suffers from collateral damage. And it's just so unfortunate that it's Washington.
Yeah.
because Washington was on the cusp of just being a powerhouse, man. I mean, they kind of own the Pac-12. Pac-12 is going away, but they could have really been something in the Big Ten. But now, not only, and this is breaking news, but now not only is the head coach from Washington going to Alabama, but I think Mike DeBoer's first hire was the offensive coordinator that worked with him at Washington. So it's just one of those things where my first initial reaction, what you asked me is, I think it's the best guy they could have got that was available, and I'm happy for him. I kind of want to go in some depth, but I'll go into some depth a little bit later. What are your initial thoughts of Kalen DeBoer, who he is, and did you really even know about him?
I knew about him, and I knew that he was top 2 or 3 on the list going in. I do know that they wanted Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning was their number 1 guy, but Dan Lanning right away said, I'm
In
staying
such a
right where I'm
savage
at.
way, yeah, in such a
Yeah,
savage way.
absolutely. He didn't go quite to the extreme that Kiffin did last year with Auburn, but it was Lanning's own way as far as, just saying, look, I'm loyal to Oregon. This is where I'm staying. And then I don't know how much of a candidate Mike Norvell really was. I'm assuming that because the name was thrown out there so much, he had to have been a candidate, but he did the same thing pretty much afterwards. But DeBoer, you hit the nail on the head once again. You've done a great job of that today. Alabama went and got the best guy that was available. And a question I have for you is, how much do you think that Nick Saban staying with the Alabama program, because he's got an office there in the Alabama facility, he's still going to be involved in something there, whether it be like a defensive analyst, some sort of recruiting guy, he is still going to have some say in it. How much do you think that affected coaches' decisions? And also, how much do you think that having to try to follow Nick Saban went into some of these coaches' decisions to not take the job as well?
That's a really good question. Hmm. I don't think it played too much into the decisions, honestly. I just think you look at college football where it's at right now. Some of the top candidates they're going for, who in the right mind would leave the position they're in, to set themselves up possibly to fail in some unrealistic expectations, like you're saying. Um, so I mean, I think it does play into it, but I don't know. Alabama got their guy. I mean, like, you kind of had an idea that Alabama kind of knew who they were going for before they started all this. Not that they knew that Nick Saban was retiring, but I'm pretty sure they had those real conversations behind closed doors. Um, but the fact that the coaching search only lasts 48 hours, man, they got their guy. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like they went through a week-long process and they're just getting told no left and right. I'm sure they had to make their phone calls, and I'm sure they were real about that with Kalen DeBoer, and that's why you've seen some of the head coaches like Dan Lanning, Mike Norvell, and Lane Kiffin, if he did, I don't know, kind of come out and just say no. But you have to expect them to reach out to some of those coaches, just to reach out. And but at the end of the day, if you got that dog mentality, you're not going to let something like, following in the footsteps of somebody be the reason why you don't coach that program. In fact, you look at that kind of like a challenge, to follow up, and you're not going to be as good as Nick Saban.
No.
You're not going to be better than Nick Saban. So as long as you have those expectations real with yourself and with the team and with the program coming in, I think it's going to be smooth sailing. Now, what you can't do is go 7-5 for 3 straight seasons at Alabama.
Yeah.
But if we look at Kalen DeBoer, excuse me, you'll realize that that's very highly unlikely, and that's why they hired this guy as their head coach.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm not so much worried as about the coaches, because I agree with you. I think that it might have played a slight factor into some of these coaches not taking that job, but I'm not sure if it was a main factor for them not taking this job. I'd be more worried about the boosters and the fans, because I mean, you've seen as Tennessee fans how our fans, they just get after a coach if they're not getting it done, and rightly so. Tennessee has got a storied history just like Alabama does. Now, Alabama overall has had more success. I mean, they've got the most national championships out of any team in college football, but Tennessee has got that storied history as well, and they expect a certain amount of success under a coach. So I would be afraid coming in as a new head coach following Saban after the success he had of what the fans would think about you if you start not having some of that success. Like, say you do have a 9-3 year, which Alabama has not had since 2007 when Nick Saban went 7-6. Saban won at least 10 games every single year under Bama or as Bama's head coach, except for his first year there. So the first time that a head coach goes 9-3, or maybe even 9-4, say they don't win that bowl game, what is going to happen in Alabama with their fans, boosters, stuff like that? How are they going to react, and how does that affect that head coach? I'm not sure,
Well,
and
they got
that's where I think some of the coaches might have thought about things, and I still don't think that played into a lot of their decisions. I think that they were happy where they were. They like what they got going. Um, so I don't know, but I do think that Alabama got their guy. That was the best hire that they could have made with the people that were available.
yeah. I mean, that's why I said you got to be real with yourself and make sure that it's very well known that the goal is to win championships,
Yeah,
right? But you're fooling yourself and everybody if you seriously think you're going to come in and it be a turnkey type of situation where Alabama is going to win the West for the next 5 years, or well, they're going away with divisions, but you know what I mean. Being in the SEC championship for the next 5 years. Now they may be in the playoff because it's 12 teams, but you're fooling yourself, man. I think Bama's going to stay at the top, but I don't think they're winning 11 games a season just like that. I mean, there's
yeah,
no way. You're starting to see some inevitables happening with the coaching change. Like you see some of the recruits. I think they had like a 5-star wide receiver decommit. We picked up a tight end out of the portal from the University of Alabama. I mean, you're starting to see some of the guys that may be committed there for Nick Saban is like, hey, if he's not here, neither am I. Like that's the guy I committed to. I didn't. So I mean, you're starting to see that, but I think Kalen DeBoer knows what's in front of him. I think he's accepting the challenge, and I think he's going to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And if you've listened to his like introductory, speech, whatever he does to get inducted as the head coach, he came out and basically said like, "Hey, Nick Saban's retired, but I want him here every day to give us at least one pointer that we can get better at." And he kind of joked, he's like, "I know Nick Saban's going to have like 10 pointers to get better at, but I just want one thing a day." And so you already see him leveraging, you know, Nick Saban's knowledge and his not absentee, but the other word, the opposite of his attendance, being there, being a part of the program, even though he's retired. Not like an AD or anything. I don't think it's like that. It's just more of like just being there, kind of as a tutor,
yeah,
for the
and
next head coach.
that's smart. Whoever got the job, I think that they were going to have to be able to have
Yeah,
Saban's input about it, because if you just come in there and you're like, no, I don't want his input. I don't need him here. Yeah, that wasn't going to go over well, and you're not going to have success or be there very long at Alabama if you did something like that.
I do want to warn the Bama fans about these next couple of years, man. Because if you come in here and you think, hey, Kalen DeBoer has got to win some national championships in his first 3 years or 4 years, because that's what Saban did, watch yourself. Watch yourself. Because if you fire a guy for winning 10 games a year but not winning a championship, and then that could lead to another guy, and then another guy, and then now you're looking at it 12 years down the road and you're on your fifth head coach. It's almost like I'm speaking from yeah. It's not a fun road. It's not a fun road. It's better to enjoy your time with Nick Saban, enjoy those natties, and I hope you get more. Just not really. Actually, I hate that. I don't want you to have any more. But I'm being serious in the fact of you're gonna have to be a little bit real here and
Yeah,
understand that. I'd love to say that Nick Saban's one in a million, but Paul Bear Bryant, we said the same thing about him, and then look at what happened. But no, I just Alabama, they got their guy. Now they're gonna have to trust their guy. Whatever happens this next year, if they go 7-5, they have to drop it. They have to just say, you know what? the Saban effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saban retired. This next guy has just absolutely unbelievable and unrealistic expectations coming in. Drop it. If he goes 7-5, he goes 7-5. But you have to pour into this guy. You have to believe in him. You know, donors everywhere. Like, you can't stop pouring money into the program because your guy's not in it anymore, even though he is. I mean, they're just going to have to get real. They're going to have to sacrifice. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe he comes out next year and he freaking wins it all, which would be insane. But they got to be real. And, if there's some hard years, they got to get through it. They got to get through it, but don't make those hard years turn into just decades long of shit.
Yeah. But
Sorry.
no, you're fine.
But let's talk about DeBoer, man. I want to talk about, because I had to look into it.
Yep.
DeBoer is a guy that I knew was at Washington, but I'm like, he was fairly new at Washington, and he was. He literally only coached there in 2022 and 2023. Now, in those 2 years, he went 25-3, beat Oregon, I don't know, 3 times in a row, I think, to end it. He got this college football playoff win over Texas. They won the Pac-12, obviously, but he actually started his coaching career at, I believe it's Sioux Falls, Sioux Falls. I believe
Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls. Thank you. He actually went there to play college, but he ended up being the head coach there from 2005 to 2009. And dude, his record there was unbelievable during those seasons. It's 67-3, 67-3 in 5 seasons there. He then went crazy. He went on like a ton of different, assistant jobs, coordinator jobs before he landed his next head coaching job in 2020 at Fresno State, where he was only there for 2 years, 2020, 2021. But at Fresno State, he went 12-6. I think he had a 9-3 record, and then he had a 3-3 record during the COVID year. And then obviously what he did at Washington, that brings his overall record for head coaching at 104-12. 104-12. That is an insane record. Now, a lot of that was at an NAIA school. Take it how you want it. Winning's still hard, especially to win at that rate. So I'm not excited of what he's got to bring because I'm a Tennessee fan. But I'm very intrigued in how this next season is going to go and how the future is going to go for Alabama football after Nick Saban.
Yeah, but I also want to bring up one of his stints as an assistant coach. He was at Indiana as the offensive coordinator in 2019 under head coach Tom Allen, which is where he was introduced to Michael Penix Jr., who just led his Washington team to the college football national championship game. And that year at Indiana, I don't remember their overall record that year, but they did end up beating Ohio State that year, I believe, in 2019. They had an impressive year that year. And I was listening to the EA show this past week, and they said that is the sole Kalen DeBoer is the sole reason Tom Allen was given an extension and given a raise at his job. And then Tom Allen was later fired from Indiana because when DeBoer left to take the head coaching job at Fresno State, it was all downhill from there for Indiana. And when DeBoer got the head coaching job at Washington, that was the time that Penix entered the transfer portal. He had already been injured 2 or 3 different times at Indiana, and DeBoer said, "Come on to Washington," and the rest is history from there. But yeah, he's had an impressive stint as a head coach overall, and I think that he is going to do well at Alabama. Is he going to have some bumps in the road? Absolutely, any head coach is going to, but he's going to be just fine down there. And we've mentioned it a couple of times already. We think that this is a great hire by Alabama. They absolutely got the best guy that was available to them.
Absolutely. I agree, man. Let's talk about him even further. Let's talk about the national championship game. Why don't we? Let's move forward into the national championship game that happened Monday, but it feels like it was 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Michigan Downs Washington. Um, I think it was a rout. Hang on, it was 34-13. And what are your initial thoughts on the game? It's kind of not what we expected to happen, if we're being honest. In fact,
Well,
probably
first
just the right
off,
opposite.
yeah. First off, I mean, credit to Michigan. They put it together this year. Went undefeated, won it all. You're gonna have the title vacated here pretty soon, but no, I'm just kidding about that. It could happen, could not, but no, I'm not gonna go
Stop
into
it!
that.
Stop it!
But my initial reaction to the game was Michigan didn't win the game. Washington gave it away. I mean, the mistakes that Washington had in that game, and yes, credit to Michigan. They did exactly what they did to Alabama. They just completely blew up Washington's offensive line. So what's the award given to the best offensive line in college football? I can't remember the name of it.
I think it's a Maxwell Award, but I could be confusing that.
The Maxwell Award is running back.
Well, then I have no idea.
Well, there's an award given out to the
Davey
top
O'Brien?
offensive.
No, it's not Davey O'Brien. Is it?
Mm,
I do not know my awards, dude. I need to do some research.
yeah, I didn't look it up before we got on here, but Michigan for like the last 2 years has won that award as the best O line in college football, and Washington actually won it this year. And Michigan's defensive line just took that Washington offensive line and just completely destroyed them for the majority of the game. And Penix looked like an average quarterback in that game. What did you find out what it was?
The Joe Moore Award.
Yeah, there it is. The Joe Moore Award. That's the award that Michigan won for the last 2 years, and then Washington won it this year for the best O line in college football. And Michael Penix looked like an average quarterback in that game because he was under pressure the majority of that game, which he hadn't been in most of the year. And even when he wasn't under pressure, he was back there. He was constantly on his toes, like, okay, I got to get rid of this ball, got to get rid of it. And he wasn't making good decisions during the game. But it wasn't just him; it was the entire Washington team. They could not stop that rushing attack that Michigan brought onto them. And I mean, it's crazy that the game ended up the way that it was, but you can sit here and say Washington had every opportunity to win that game because it was 20-13 at halftime. And Washington had scored right before the half to make it 20-13, then got the ball to start the second half. And you're like, okay, Washington goes down and scores here, and they're right back in it. The game's tied up. They throw an interception the first play out of halftime and then get a stop. Force Michigan to kick a field goal, and you're like, okay, they still got a chance. And they never scored again.
Nope. I agree with you, but man, this was Michigan's from start to football game, man. I mean,
It was.
Michigan ran the ball for 303 yards. Washington ran it for 46. You ain't winning a football game when your quarterback has to throw it 51 times. Not happening. JJ McCarthy, on the other hand, 10 completions. 10.
Yeah.
This was it was a butt whooping, dude. Like it wasn't. I know the score doesn't indicate that, and the situations don't indicate that, but this was grown man football, and Michigan took it to him. Michael Penix looked more like an average quarterback than I've ever seen him look. He was missing wide open wide receivers if he got them. He was getting harassed in the backfield after 2 seconds. Like, there was nothing he could do unless he could hit. If he would have connected on some of those throws, there was one early in the game where he just threw it right over the guy, and I'm just like, man, you got to hit that. Like, you hit that.
Yeah, it was on 4th down to Roma Dunze too. That would have been a touchdown.
That's what I'm saying. But the reason why that was is because they can't generate offense. They were one-dimensional that entire football game. Every time they ran it, you knew they were getting stopped if they gained 2 yards. You knew they were getting stopped within 2 yards. This was, I hate to say it, but this was easy for Michigan. I mean, after the very first 2 drives, they went 60-yard rushing touchdown, 50-yard rushing, whatever the hell it was. No, it was longer than that. I think it maybe right at 50 yards, but like two of the longest running plays in college football championship playoff history, whatever they want to call it. And it was both by the backup running back.
Yeah,
You
Donovan
know,
Edwards, the very first two runs that he had were both for touchdowns. One of them was 46 yards. I can't remember what the other one was. And then Blake Corum later actually had a 59-yard run that wasn't a touchdown. But and I don't think that this would have I don't think it would have had any effect in the game because Michigan was so stout against the run. But Dylan Johnson, the starting running back for Washington, was actually injured in that game and was still
he
trying to
was.
get through it.
So was Michael
He,
Penix after he got hurt. He was trying to gut through it, and I admire that.
yeah,
I admire
absolutely.
that.
But it was just it was no chance for Washington. Dylan Johnson had 11 carries for 33 yards in the game. And when you don't, we've mentioned it all year long, whenever you don't have a rushing attack to balance that passing attack, which is why Penix had to throw 51 times in the game, you're not going to have success.
No. And then you start forcing things because, I mean, let's be honest, he only completed about 52% of his passes. I mean, he was 27 of 51. 27 of 51. So he's having to force things. And that's why he threw in, a couple of interceptions. It sucks, man. It really does suck because I think Washington had a really good football team, but it was just a bad matchup. I mean, we talked about that. Just a bad matchup for what Michigan wants to do and what Washington wants to do. I thought Washington would overcome it because they're just an explosive offense. But you see, when you miss on those explosive plays that are there, when you miss on those explosive plays, it's almost impossible to come back from it. And Michigan got the big win.
And I also want to give credit to Michigan for this as well. I hate to bring up this game right here because it's a sour taste in our mouths, but you remember the Missouri game for Tennessee this past year? What Missouri did on defense? They dropped their guys like right at the first down marker, about 8 to 10 yards off the ball, and was forcing Tennessee to do these short passes and trying to, they were trying to see if Tennessee could actually make something out of that. And Missouri was doing a fantastic job of getting Tennessee on the ground. That's what Michigan did on defense. They dropped their guys like 8 to 10 yards, forced Penix and the Washington receivers to do a bunch of short things. And Michigan is one of the best secondaries in the country and really just defenses overall of getting guys on the ground at first contact. And that limited some of those deep plays. Now, did Michigan allow a few of them? Yes, but Washington wasn't able to take advantage of it. So I credit the Michigan defense for that game plan right there as well.
No, absolutely. The intermediate passing game, and they played loose, man. They played like daring them to take the shots. You know what I mean? And when you have that type of mentality going into it, it's pretty hard to beat it. It's really hard to beat it, especially if you have that much trust in your secondary to cover the guys, and for the most part they did. But the reason why they had that much trust in their secondary to cover the guys because they knew they only had to cover them for 3 seconds. It's all got to work together. It's all got to be. It's just it's a big puzzle piece that when you got your D line working the way they are, you got your linebackers feeling gaps and playing zones the right way. It's pretty easy to ask of your secondary to cover a guy, because you know that by the time the routes that they're running that are deep down the field, by the time they get open, if they're open, the quarterback's already getting harassed, having to scramble, whatever he's got to do. So, very, very, like you said, big win for Michigan, man. What a way to end the year for Michigan with Jim Harbaugh. Like, let's talk about them for a little bit and the stories all year long, the cheating scandal, and Harbaugh only coached like half the games that they played in. I mean, it was kind of wild that it actually ended with a national championship that, like you said, maybe vacated. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: does Jim Harbaugh come back to Michigan next year?
I was about to ask you the same question.
I got you though. We didn't talk about that pre-show.
Yeah. I think because they won the title this year, and I believe that he is at the end of his contract. This is the time to negotiate the new one. I don't think Harbaugh is back. I think he's going to the NFL and he's going to get a coaching job there. I do believe that, of course, this is just rumor. I do believe if he does stay at Michigan, there is actually going to be a clause in that contract that he cannot go after NFL jobs for like 3 to 5 years, something like that. And I just don't know if he's going to be willing to sign that. I think that eventually he's going to go back to the NFL. And you just won a national title. You've got all of this, all this stuff going on behind the scenes with the cheating stuff. I don't see why you wouldn't go ahead and make the move to the NFL because all I believe all that's going to happen if you do that right there is you're going to get hit with the show calls. Michigan is going to get a slap on the wrist because it is, it is Harbaugh, it is that coaching staff. Those guys are going to be the ones that need to take the fall, and I believe that the NCAA is going to do just that. Of course, you never know; it is the NCAA, but I don't believe that the players should be punished for any of it. So Michigan itself is going to be fine. Harbaugh is going to be hit with the show calls. He won't be able to coach college for at least 3 years. I think that he goes ahead and goes to the pros.
I think I agree with you, and I think a lot more of it on a personal level. He may just want to coach with his brother again, or against his brother again. His brother John Harbaugh, at the Ravens.
Yep.
Yeah, at the Ravens. Did you realize that they coached against each other in a Super Bowl in 2012?
Yeah, that was the 49ers and Ravens and
Is that not when the
John.
power went out in the Super Bowl?
Yes.
That's crazy. So Harbaugh's been at this shit for a long time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And that, did you see the moment in that national championship game that John actually made it and came up behind Jim on the sidelines and they hugged it out in the middle of the game there? So yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I know that made Jim feel good to have his brother there. And after the game, the first thing that he said was, "Well, I can finally sit at the big kid table at Thanksgiving now," because he was the only one that had not won a title. Of course, John has won it in the NFL. Their dad won a national championship at some point. Jim hadn't won it yet, so he said, "I can finally sit at the big kid table."
Maybe that's why he cheated so hard to get there.
Yeah.
It's crazy. No, I'm joking, man. But what a wonderful college football season it was. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest for our boys, but wasn't the worst either. The fact that it felt like our floor was at one point our ceiling, it's crazy of a turnaround what Josh Heupel's been able to do. A guy that never coached in the SEC, he came from UCF. I'm only making this comparison for Alabama, but everybody wondered, could he win at the SEC level? Well, all he's done is won 27 games and averaged 9 wins a season in his first 3 years at Tennessee. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to be able to answer that question pretty quickly. I think he's going to be able to win at the SEC level. Is it sustainable? I don't know. It's going to be hard. But everybody knows that going into that. It's not like that's something new. Like he's gonna have his work cut out for him. But he's got everything he needs around him, dude. Like he's at Alabama. He's got Nick Saban in his freaking corner. It's confirmed that Nick Saban's already got his next office, or he's getting to keep his office. I'm not sure how that's working out, but Kalen DeBoer, I think, is going to be just fine. And really looking forward to the collision of Texas, Oklahoma next year and what 2024 brings.
Yep, absolutely. So we're at about an hour in. We did spend a lot of time on stuff that wasn't Tennessee today, but I mean, we'd be remiss to not spend that much time talking about Nick Saban just because of the impact that he had on the sport. I mean, the fact that we spent 30 minutes exclusively talking about him, and then we mentioned him at different times during the next 30 minutes of what we were talking about, that shows how much that we respect Nick Saban, even as Tennessee fans. We would be doing him an injustice if we didn't talk about him for as long as we did, just the impact that he had on the sport. But let's go ahead.
I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares about what two Tennessee guys have to say about him. But at least in our hearts, we know that we did our best and giving him a nice tribute as he enjoys his retirement.
Yep, absolutely. So let's go ahead and let's talk about Tennessee. Let's get into. We'll start with the Lady Vols basketball. Is this past week, Tennessee played against Florida on Thursday night and got a big 88-81 win in this game. I don't believe that they might have gotten down at some point against Florida. I did not get a chance to watch this game. I do know that the game was tied at halftime at 42, and Tennessee, of course, comes out with the 88-81 win in this one, making them 3-0 in the conference. One of four teams in the conference that is 4-0. Skylar, what are some of your thoughts on this game here?
Yeah, so in the third quarter, Florida actually had a lead several different times. In the first quarter, they were up at 19, I think 19-15 at one point. But they had the lead as late as I think the third quarter. They were up, but it was like by 1 point. And then, Tennessee kind of gradually just kept pulling away. And Florida made a late push right there at the end of the fourth, but that's when you're swapping fouls and whatnot. Regardless, the Lady Vols had a great game. They had a hard-fought comeback win against Kentucky last week, where we talked about it literally right as we were coming on the show. And it was great for them to come back, bounce back. Not that they needed to bounce back, but they did. Against Florida, who at the time was 9-5 and 0-2 in the conference. Not a big foe, but it's always Florida. It's always a good day when you beat Florida. And the Lady Vols got it done. They actually start the season now 10-5, but the 3-0 in the conference, man. Kelly Harper's starting strong in SEC play.
Yeah, and Kelly Harper has done really well in the SEC. She hadn't done so well outside of the conference, but she's also scheduled some really tough teams in her tenure as the Lady Vols head coach outside of conference, which has prepared them for conference play. And you're sitting at 3-0 along with teams like South Carolina and LSU, and Vanderbilt somehow is in there. But we looked at their schedule earlier, and they have not played a lot of good competition earlier. The one ranked team that they played was their one loss on the year. But looking at this game right here, the two stats that stand out to me, one is the rebound numbers. Tennessee out rebounded Florida 50-34, so that is huge for Tennessee. Also, they shot 86.7% from the free throw line, 26 of 30, and Florida shot 62.5%, 15 of 24. So right there, if Florida makes their free throws, they probably win the game. But a concerning stat for me for the Lady Vols is the 17 turnovers. That could come back to bite them later on down the year, as Florida only turned it over 10 times in the game. But also looking at the box score there, Tennessee had three players that had 15-plus points. You had Sarah Puckett with 20 points on the night, Jewel Spear also with 20 points, and then Rakia Jackson, the do-it-all player, had 18 points. So impressive output from those three players for Tennessee in the game.
And I know it's not flashy, but Key, I'm blanking on her name.
Tamari Key.
Tamari Key. Thank you. I literally found it as soon as I thought about that. She had 9 points off the bench, and what she's been able to do last couple of games is pretty impressive. And I don't want that to go unnoticed that she put in 16 minutes off the bench, got 9 points. She's a baller. Usually on the boards, she only got 3 against Florida, but she's a blocking machine. She got 2 more blocks against Florida. That's actually the only 2 blocks in the game were from her. And when people try to go in the paint against Tamar Key, it's gonna get rejected. I mean,
and another note on Tamari Key, and if I'm wrong on this, correct me, but I believe she is the player that last year had to take time away from the team because she had blood clot issues in her lungs, and she is still working back from that. So the fact that she's able to get out there and put in the time that she does on the floor, I mean, she played 16 minutes in the game Thursday night and had 9 points and 3 rebounds with those 2 blocks. So I mean, she's making a lot of production with the minutes that she is playing.
No, I don't doubt it one bit. I was trying to look, but I can't find that. So I mean, if that's true, that's crazy. That's a lot like Trey Smith, the football team, and actually ended up hurting his draft stock a little bit. But had a similar problem with blood clots, but ended up being one of the best linemen that we've had at the University of Tennessee, and he's making a difference in Kansas City right now. So I wish nothing but the best for Tamarki, but I want her to keep playing her butt off, dude. I mean, she's doing a great job for the Lady Vols. But really, I think more than anything, just having the whole team healthy again, man.
Yeah,
Like I said,
absolutely.
I didn't realize how hurt, Kelly Harper's kind of roster managing the beginning of the season, but getting Rakia Jackson back and having the whole team healthy, you're starting to see Sarah Puckett hit the three a little bit more consistently now. She was 4 of 6 against Florida, just raining them from threes, and starting to see. I mean, high scoring, 88 points against Florida. Now defense is gonna have to tighten up a little bit, but they'll get there. And right now, we're gonna enjoy the 3-game winning streak to open up SEC play, and hopefully we can keep this train rolling today. They play at I think 4 or 5 o'clock Eastern, which is coming up here in just a few moments, really.
Yeah, play at Texas A&M here later on today, and then Thursday night, traveling to the Hump to play against Mississippi State. So 2 quality opponents that Tennessee plays again this week. So looking forward to that. I do believe that after this week, Tennessee should be 5-0 in the conference, but you can never take advantage of a road game in the SEC. You can never overlook those. And playing in College Station and in Starkville, it's not easy to do. And kind of transitioning that, the Tennessee men saw just how hard it is to go on the road and play as they went to the Hump on Wednesday night to play against Mississippi State and dropped the game against Mississippi State. It was
Yeah,
unfortunate.
you can't have as bad as a first half as you had against Mississippi State and expect to win a game. Just to put it in perspective, we only scored 22 points in the first half. I'm talking 20 minutes, and you're barely averaging 2 points a minute.
Yeah.
That's not good. Now they came back, shot 50 in the second half, but at that point, man, the deficit is just too big, and they were down 35-22 at the first half. Like I said, they scored 50 in the second half, but overall lost 77-72. I mean, you just can't. What's up with these cold spills that we have on offense where we just can't? I mean, it seems like we got a lid on the basket legitimately. I mean, we go 4 or 5 minutes at a time without scoring a single bucket. I mean,
Well,
we're way
it's
too aggressive of a team to not just push to the board and get a foul or something. I mean, I don't know.
it's been a constant thing with Tennessee though is Rick Barnes teams they go cold from the field, and um that's one of the big drawbacks that people have with Rick Barnes is you don't have that go-to scorer. Now you do have that guy this year, but he was still trying to work through some things in that Mississippi State game as something finally clicked. And we're talking about Dalton Connect, of course. He has struggled as of late, and then at some point in the second half of that Mississippi State game, something clicked and he caught fire, and that's when Tennessee made their run. But it was like you mentioned, it was just too little, too late. Is you got down 35-22 at halftime, and just couldn't work your way out of the hole. But the thing about this game was you did not have an answer down low for Tolu Smith. He absolutely dominated Tennessee down low. And then you had the freshman guard, Hubbard, what's his name? Josh Hubbard just absolutely went off from downtown. He was 5 of 10 from
10.
three. And it seemed like every time he touched it, he hoisted it up and it was going in. And Tolu Smith, he was 7 of 10 from the field, 9 of 12 from the free throw line. I mean, those two guys alone beat Tennessee. Hubbard had 25 and Smith had 23. The next closest guy was Matthews with 8 points. So you stop those two guys and Tennessee wins that game, but Smith just absolutely bullied Jonas Adu and Tobe Awaka down low. I mean, there was nothing that they could do. Which brings me into a question I have for you. And sorry that I keep cutting you off, but what is Tennessee's answer down low? Because there are times that the post just absolutely disappears for Tennessee.
Well, I mean, Jonas Adu here. I mean, he gets fouled for everything he does when he tries to block. I mean, he fouled out in the game, and at the end of the day, that's when Mississippi State knew that they won the game because now we just lost our biggest guy in the center, and uh, we can't. I'm not blaming the refs for any reason, but like we can't let something like that stop us from running. We can't be that dependent on a player. I know I said it. You asked me like who's the key guy, and I said it. Jonas Adu's our key player. Like we got him, and if he's clicking, we're rolling. There's going to be games where he's not clicking or something like this happens. He gets fouled out, man. We got to find a way, even if it's changing our philosophy on offense or defense, whatever we got to do. But we're going to have to throw some help down in the middle to help Awaka because Awaka is not as big as Adu is. But I don't know, man. It was crazy because Mississippi State, I think, is a decent ball club. But the
Oh, they
fact
are.
that the fact that both teams just kind of had like two guys pop off, like you named off the two for Mississippi State, and then we had Dalton Connect, Ziegler go for 28, 26 respectfully, and like literally Adu went for 9 before he got fouled out.
Yeah.
No other player had more than 4 points on our team, and I don't know, but we cannot be that dependent on one basketball player, and we are, and we're not just dependent on one; we're dependent on Adu just as much as we're dependent really on Dalton Connect and Ziegler. Man, we lose any one of those three guys, and we are not nowhere near the team that we're capable of. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's kind of a scary thought because, I mean, last year Ziegler got hurt, and I'm not going to wood. I'm hoping nothing happens this year. I hope everybody stays healthy, but, we're a completely different team if even one of our top 3, 4 guys go down.
Yeah, but the overall stats in this game are pretty even overall, just as the game ended up. But before I get into some other things I have about Tennessee, I want to go ahead and let's look at yesterday's game because yesterday was a game that Tennessee got lucky to pull out, in my opinion. You played against a really tough Georgia team, and you did come out with a win, but it wasn't pretty for a lot of the game. Um, at one point, Tennessee was down by 11 in this game in the second half and came back and ended up winning the game. You finally caught
Dalton,
fire. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Dalton Connect just had his coming out party. I mean, this was a game where it was ugly. It was which is crazy because we started out and got a massive lead in the first half. I mean, I think we were up by 14 at one point in the first half. Georgia
Yeah,
came back, crawling back. They ended up taking the lead. They had a huge momentum shift there in the middle of the game. But it was Dalton Connect that said, you know what? I ain't having it. 36 points later, he went 5 of 8 from 3-point from downtown. He went 12 of 20 at field goals. That was green light Dalton Connect. That was green light Dalton Connect that we haven't really seen other than against maybe like North Carolina. You've seen
hmm
it a little bit against Mississippi State after we were down. But that was full on green light Dalton Connect. And I hope that's not something that Rick Burns has to like get him into. Like, I like for him to come out every game, green light, Dalton Connect. If shots ain't hitting, keep shooting. You know what I mean? Like, you got to believe in yourself. And, when Dalton Connect's working, that way if he can force the defense to zero into him, that's when, I mean, you seen the feeds he was given last night if you watched the game. Against Georgia, he was giving off some feeds to Adu that were just pristine, dude. Like there was
hmm
one feed of Adu, like he caught it, there was nobody around him. Adu just jumped up and slammed it, and there was literally nobody around him. And we're talking about a guy that's literally sitting under the basket. But that's the type of effect that guys like Ziegler and Dalton Connect have. That when they're hitting shots from deep and forcing the defense to play out the perimeter, it really opens up the whole dynamic of the offense. And it was a joy to watch. I actually got to catch the second half of that game because I'm like, why the hell are we losing to Georgia? Like they beat us enough in the fall. We need to be getting our paybacks here in the winter and spring months. But no, big game by Dalton Connect, and big win for Tennessee to get back in the winning column.
But some concerning things for me for this team, and it's some things that have been kind of a constant
Is it a
thing.
player or is it a concern like a philosophy?
A
Because
little bit of
I have a concern on a player or two.
I have a concern on two players, and we'll touch on that first because it's the same. I know that your players is the same two players as me. It's Santiago Vescovi and Josiah Jordan James.
How did you know it? That's crazy. It's almost like it's obvious that it's a problem, and I don't know what we need to do to fix it. What's going on? Is it a slump? What is it?
I think part of it is a slump, but Vescovi has not been right all season long. I mean, yesterday Santiago Vescovi had 6 total points in the game, and against Mississippi State, he only had 2 points. So I don't know what exactly is going on. I know that he said earlier this year to Rick Barnes that he just feels completely worn out. I know right at the beginning of the season, he missed that exhibition game against Michigan State because he gone back home. He had a death in the family, I believe, and he had to travel quite a bit to start the year. And I just don't think he has quite come back from that. But I'm not sure what you do to fix that. We thought that he was going to get right after the Ole Miss game. He started coming out a little bit. He had 11 in that game. He also had 12 against Tarleton State back before Christmas, but he hasn't quite come back from things. And then Josiah Jordan James just looks like he's in a slump, and he's trying to force some things, and it's just not working out for him. Like he had 4 points yesterday, and I believe he only had 3 against Mississippi State, and he is not hitting from deep like he was at the beginning of the year. And I don't need either one of these guys to go off for 15
we're not
plus
asking them to
points.
get 20 points a game. We just need them to at least play. You know what I mean? Like,
If
I don't want
you,
to throw away everything they're doing. Their defense is still top notch.
it is.
I mean, they've had some mistakes here and there on defense. I mean, we're giving up a little bit more points than I'd like. I mean, 79 points, and I think we gave up close to that or 80 points against Mississippi State. I can't remember. So I mean, we're not giving up. I mean, we're giving up a lot of points that I'd like to choke back on. But like that's the reason why I think they're still seeing a lot of minutes, because if they weren't playing so good on defense, man, I would honestly have to encourage or maybe suggest sitting these guys out a couple of games, especially if what's going on with Santiago. If he's really that drained or that tired, man, sit him out. Sit him out a week or two. Like let him refresh. Sometimes that's the best thing for a player is to sit, watch a couple of games, reset, and then come back better than ever. But these guys are still playing really good lights out defense. You've seen it come alive against really the last like 2 or 3 minutes against Georgia. Man, our defense was just straight locked down. They wouldn't give up anything. And that is a testament to those players. Like I said, it's just the offense. It's kind of like a same old with Rick Barnes. Now, luckily, we had some guys that came through, but with Santiago Vescovi and Triple J, definitely a slump that I think they'll work through. I think they'll get out of it. I'm hoping they get out of it. We need them to get out of it because right now we're not a top 5 team with them playing the way they are.
No, and like I said, I don't need them going off for even 15 points a night, but I need both of them to give me 10, 12 points a night. I need Josiah to give me, 7, 8 rebounds, 5, 6 assists. Because that's the guy that Josiah is. He's the all-around player. I need Vescovi to go out and give me 12 points a night. He's big at getting rebounds because he's one of those guards that he's going to fight for every rebound. Give me 6 rebounds. Give me about 5 assists. Give me those type of numbers. And, it makes me feel good because then it takes the pressure off of Dalton Connect. It takes the pressure off of Zakai Ziegler. I mean, you're going to get what you get from Adu. You're going to get what you get from Awaka. And Jemiah Mashak is going to come in, and he's your defensive guy, and whatever he gives you on offense is a bonus. Now, a third guy that I could say I need a little bit more from is Jordan Gainey. Jordan Gainey needs to step up, and he doesn't get the minutes that the others do, but give me a solid 6 to 8 points when you come in along with what you're doing on the defensive end. Just give me another option of a guy to take the pressure off of some of these other guys that are in there scoring all these points that are getting all the focus. But going to the team in itself, the turnover numbers is very concerning for me. Tennessee, I forget what they have averaged on the year. Let me see if I
I
can
mean,
pull it up real
they had
quick.
14 alone just against Georgia.
And they had 16 or 17 against Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Tennessee averages 11 turnovers on the year, and that's including the last two games. Before then, it was like 8 or 9 turnovers a game that they were averaging, which is a good number. You can't be averaging up there close to 20. That is going to hurt you going down the road here.
No,
The
I mean,
only
if you
good
have
thing is go ahead.
you have 15 turnovers, right? And that's 15 offensive possessions that you didn't really even get a chance to score a bucket, right?
Yep.
15 scoring chances. We're not even going to multiply that by 2 because we all know you don't score on every offensive possession, but you really take away realistically 10 to 15 points off a game when you turn the ball over 15 times. I think that's a fair number. You know,
Yep.
10 points, that's scoring on a third of your possessions that you would have had. Like it's just one of those things where we're going to have to really clean that up. And that alone, I know you're not going to have a game with 0 turnovers, and I get that. But you really are leaving points on the table on offense. And let's be honest, if you're giving the ball away 15, 20 times, you're probably giving them points on defense just because you're giving them more opportunities. And that is something that it's very abnormal. Turnovers in any sport, no bueno. Um,
Yep.
you can't turn the ball over more than 15 times in a basketball game and expect to win. Somehow they did it against Georgia. Like I said, our defense there in the last 3 minutes was just insane. If y'all watched the game, I highly encourage you to go back and watch if you didn't. That was pretty crazy. But we're gonna have to clean that up. That's something that, and you see a lot of times it's Kai Ziegler that turns it up too, like turns it over. I don't know if he tries to dribble, do that extra pass that we don't need. I know a lot of times there in Georgia, it was they were trying to do that extra pass that necessarily wasn't needed, and they'd either jump the pass or they would just straight steal from the dribble if they're trying to, because they did a lot of double teams. Georgia was doing a great thing defensively. They were kind of like doing 2 different defenses depending on where they were on the court. Um, mid court they were playing like a man, and then by the time they got to the 3-point line and dribble in, they were shifting to like a 3-2 zone, which I'm not a basketball guru, but I thought that was kind of smart because then when you're dribbling down the court and you're making your plays, you're making the plays based off what they're showing you going down the court, and then they change mid play. But we adjusted. We did really good against Georgia, getting that big win. We were down late, but ended up winning by 6. But that was just the beginning of SEC play, brother. And it's
Yeah.
pulling out our hair already. it's
Yeah,
it's
it's only gonna it's only gonna get worse from here. But
it's going to be a long season. It's
yeah,
going to be fun though, right?
oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be fun. One other thing I have concerned about, we've actually kind of touched on it some, but you can't just rely on one player. There's gonna be nights whenever Connect is not hitting, and if he wasn't hitting yesterday, oh, there's no telling how bad Georgia would have beat Tennessee yesterday
Oh,
because other
absolutely.
guys were just not there at all. I so I, it's kind of a catch-21 situation because Tennessee fans have been looking for a go-to guy in the Rick Barnes era, and you've got that in Connect. But at the same time, if you don't have guys that can help him out, what good is having him, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you because I mean Ziegler's the same way, man. Look at our offense or defense even without Zakai Ziegler. And you kind of brought this up earlier. Is Zakai Ziegler the best point guard Tennessee's had under Rick Barnes?
It's very close. I think because of what he means for the program, and you're the one that brought this up, because of what he means for the program, yes, he is the best one that Rick Barnes has ever had. But I'm gonna say overall best point guard, no. I forget the guy's name, but the point guard that Rick Barnes had at Texas for that Final Four team, he was a very good player. Um, I think that is probably the best point guard that Rick Barnes
Well, what
had.
about it? What about at Tennessee though? I mean, I don't respectfully, I don't give a rat's tail end what he did at Texas. At Tennessee, is Zakai Ziegler the best point guard that Rick Barnes has ever had?
I'm
I think
I'm
he is.
still I'm still gonna say because of what he means for the team, yes. But I don't know. I think because of
I
the
think he's
potential,
limited. I think he's limited in potential. I do. But
yes.
as far as to Tennessee, what he means at Tennessee, I think he's the best. Again, I wish Zakai all the best in the NBA if he makes it. Great, awesome. But I don't watch the NBA. I watch Tennessee, and so that's just my take. I know some people are diehard NBA fans, and that's why they watch college level, whatever. But I think Zakai may be one of the best. But I think we're 100% honest and real by saying Zakai is going to be limited at the next level. I think that's inevitable. I think he's limited now, but he's so daggum good that he makes up for it.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's why I'm gonna say that no, he's not the best point guard that Rick Barnes has had because I think that when it comes to overall potential, Jordan Bone is.
okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. But dude,
But
we
because
gotta
but I will say because of what Zakai Ziegler means for the team, what he does for them, Zakai Ziegler is probably the best.
fair enough, fair enough. Now, the men's basketball team has a monster week coming up.
They do.
Weather permitting, because we're gonna get some nasty stuff this week with the freeze, and I think we're getting like inches of snow coming in tomorrow. But as of right now, it's scheduled on the 16th. Is that this Tuesday? Yeah, that's just
Yeah, that's
Tuesday.
Tuesday night.
They are going to be playing the Florida Gators, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Monster game. Always a good day to beat the Gators. So let's hopefully get that done. And then following that up is Saturday, and this is to be dated. They're probably gonna wait to announce it depending on what the rankings come out as or whatnot. But we're playing Alabama, and Alabama, Tennessee, and basketball, at least in recent history, the last 3, 4, 5 years, has been a very treat of a game to watch.
Yeah.
So monster week coming up. Now I think you alluded to this earlier. You're hoping we go 2-0. I said the same thing last week. That I hope that we went 2-0. But man, I don't know. We might actually slip up to Big Bad Bama this week. But I'm hoping at least beat Florida. Um, but if we can correct some stuff, there's absolutely no reason why we can't win both games.
Now, one good thing about both of these games this week is both of them are supposed to be, or both of them are at home in Knoxville. So
Yes.
that is good for Tennessee. But I also want to mention something that you said before we went live. It's crazy to think that 11 of the 14 teams in the Southeastern Conference have double-digit wins.
I'm glad you brought that
And
up. Yeah.
and Florida and Alabama are both two of those teams. And not to mention this, Alabama is one of only two teams in the SEC that are sitting at 3-0 right now. Both of the Alabama schools are sitting at 3-0, Auburn and Alabama right now in the conference.
You want me to one up what I said on that is there's 11 teams with double digit wins. There's only one team in the Southeastern Conference right now with a losing record.
And that's
That is
Vanderbilt.
your Vanderbilt Commodores, which is crazy because I thought they had a decent basketball squad. Um,
Jerry's getting fired.
it's gonna happen. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Missouri is the only other team that's not got a winning record. They're 500. They're at 500 with 8-8 record, and that's starting SEC's 0-3. So I mean, it's just crazy how good the SEC is right now. I mean, you're seeing a bunch of these talking heads saying that we're going to get like 8 to 9 teams in the tournament. I think that's a little unrealistic, but for sure, probably 6 or 7 teams in the tournament right now, based off the way these teams are started. It's crazy how competitive the basketball league is right now.
And see that's just that's one of the places where me and you kind of have differing opinions. I do think that it's a possibility that 9 teams get into the tournament from the
Okay, fair
SEC.
enough. Fair enough.
Um, and I'll go ahead and name the teams that I believe will make the tournament. Now this will probably change going later into the year, but Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Texas A&M, I believe, are going to be locks. Now, Texas A&M had a rough start to the conference, but a big win yesterday against Kentucky. So those are 6 teams that I believe are locks. And I believe that you're going to have South Carolina and Georgia and Mississippi State also make the tournament. Now, you could have a team like Arkansas that could figure some things out, but right now they are struggling. So I think right now they're out of the tournament. But those 3 teams right there, South Carolina and Georgia and Mississippi State, I believe going deeper into this year, they're going to have some runs and they're going to make the tournament as well. So that right there is 9 teams. I do believe 6 are locks for the tournament.
Yeah, sick. Yeah, absolutely. I think I can agree with that. Mississippi State's going to be an intriguing team to watch to see what they fold into because they played Tennessee very well. They played
They
Tennessee
did.
very well. We did have a bad first half. I think if that game gets played again, we win and we win by probably 10 points, but you just can't go that cold in a first half of a basketball game and expect to win. And I'm going to allude that credit to Mississippi State and the way they play defense. So if they can stay that feisty, man, I'm very intrigued to what Mississippi State can do as the season moves on. But it's also crazy to think that we're finishing week 2, going into week 3 of SEC play, and not to get crazy ahead of ourselves here, but really only about 2 months left of basketball season. It's moving really fast, man. But really looking forward to it, and hoping the boys can get a couple dubs this week and hopefully make up for, because I think we'll drop in the polls, don't you think?
Slightly. One thing that helps Tennessee is Kentucky lost yesterday, so that makes 5 out of the 6 top teams lost a game this past week. The only team that did not lose was UConn. You had Purdue dropped a game, Kansas dropped a game, of course Tennessee dropped a game, Kentucky dropped one yesterday, and then the Houston was the other one. Also dropped a game, and I believe Houston might have lost twice this past week, but I could be wrong on that. So 5 out of the top 6 teams lost a game this past week. So you could see a little bit of shuffling, but I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of droppage from a lot of those teams. But I do see Tennessee sitting around maybe 7 in the polls this coming week.
So stay in the top 10. Staying in the top 10.
Yeah, I don't believe that they'll drop out of the top 10, especially after the win yesterday against Georgia.
I agree with that. Well, dude, do you have
But,
anything to close out the show, man?
well, I do have one more stat here. So 36 points has been scored, or at least 36 points has been scored twice this season in the SEC. Both times has been by Dalton Connect.
He is him.
Yep, absolutely. And the fact that he has done that on the road both times, he scored 37 on the road at North Carolina and then 36 on the road yesterday at Georgia, not to mention 28 on the road at Mississippi State. That is impressive. You see guys do it some at home, but you don't see it a lot on the road like that. He's an awesome player, and he's one now. I'm glad Tennessee got, but I don't think I'm wrong in saying it's also been a surprise as to what he has been able to do.
100%. 100%. When this guy came to Tennessee, everybody thought it was a big pickup, don't get me wrong, but nobody really expected him to be a plug-in, be the best guy on the team type of guy. But I will say this. As good as he is and as good as he's playing, and I hope he keeps it up, I'm ready for the rest of the team to really step up and help him.
Yeah.
Zakai Ziegler's tried his best the last couple of games, and that's great. But man, we're gonna have to have Jonas Adu be a little bit better of a defender, not get fouled out, be a little bit smarter with the plays, and be that guy. We're gonna need Vescovy. We're gonna need Triple J to be the leaders that I know they are, and step up, production wise. Doesn't matter how great of a leader you are if you're not being productive when it comes, game time. So.
Yep. And we've had some negative things to say today, quite a bit of them actually, and we've tried to work through it. But one positive that I want to end on today, that means that Tennessee has not hit their stride yet. And you want your team to hit their stride in March whenever the tournament happens. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is March. I believe that Tennessee is working through some things right now, and as long as they can get it together and hit their stride at the right time, we could see Tennessee's first Final Four in school history for the men's.
Be careful though. That's a
Yes,
very positive.
absolutely.
Well, what I'm saying is, I just looked ahead at our schedule, and it's gonna be hard to hit our stride in March, and you don't know why, because we end our season, the last 5 games of the regular season before the SEC tournament. A&M, Auburn,
You do get
at
both of those at home.
at Alabama, at South Carolina, and then Kentucky. That's a 5 game stretch of hell, dude. That's an insane schedule right there. But hey, that's at the end of the season. We can do what we can do now to rack up some dubs and set ourselves up for a good March. And ready to see us put together a good run for March, man. Sweet 16s are nice and all, but at the end of the day, man, it's about time to do a little bit more. You know what I mean? I love
Yep.
Rick Barnes. I love Rick Barnes to death. I love what he's done with our program, and I love the fact that we're always in the top conversation during the season. But kind of like that whole, you can be a leader, but at some point you got to produce. Man, you can win all the games in the world in the regular season, but if we don't make a Final Four or a national championship run, then you know what's it worth? So
Exactly. Yep.
I'm excited though. I think he's going to lead the boys and get it done. But like you said, I'm ready for the team to play together all as one. And if I have to wait another month to do that, so be it. But they better freaking do it.
Yeah. As long as you can get through the next little bit, uh, we'll say the next month, if you can get through that month and, just looking at the schedule, you've got a lot of winnable games. I mean,
Hundred percent.
you do have Florida and Alabama this week. Those are going to be tough. Um, Vanderbilt. You got a tough South Carolina team coming up too, and then not to mention you got Kentucky in there within the next month. LSU and at Texas A&M. That's within the next month right there. Those are some winnable games, but if you don't play to your standard, then you can also drop some games too. If you can make it through the next month and only lose, I'll say 2 games, then I think that if you're able to hit your stride towards the end, you're going to be sitting in a good position.
Heck yeah. I agree with that. I do want to ask you one question, kind of non-topic. I was just looking at the schedule. What determines what teams we're going to play twice in a season, what teams we don't? What determines that? Is it on a rotation? What is it?
I do believe that there's certain teams that you play year in and year out twice. So, like, I know Kentucky is
Like,
one of those teams that Tennessee plays
right.
twice each year because that's a rival. Same thing with
Probably
Vanderbilt.
Alabama. Okay.
Yeah, Alabama, and I think South Carolina is that
South
other
Carolina
team.
is. But like this year, we
Te-
also play A&M twice this year.
yeah, so I think that there are some teams that you play on a rotationary basis twice. I think Florida used to be one of those teams that they played twice, but now you only play them once. Um, so I think you do have some of those teams that are set that you play twice, but then the others are on a rotationary basis.
Fair enough. Thank you for answering that question. And if anybody was listening and watching, if you didn't know, now you do. So,
Yep.
because I didn't.
But also don't take my word for it. I just believe that's what it is. If I can look up after the show to see for sure, but I'm not 100% certain. But I do know that teams like Kentucky and Vanderbilt for sure, and I believe Alabama is also one of those. They do play those year in and year out because those are your main rivals in the sport.
Heck yeah. Well, dude, we're wishing the Lady Vols and the men's basketball team all the luck in the world. Um, Baseball's media days are coming up shortly, and almost a month away from kickoff of baseball season. It's some exciting times, man. Big things happening kind of in the portal behind the scenes. Um, I do want to make note real quick before we jump off here, just because I can't not talk about Tennessee football. Um, I think Tennessee's in some really good position with 2 5-star recruits. One
Yep.
is Lance Hurd, the offensive tackle from LSU, who was a freshman, so he's going to have some eligibility left. We tend to be in the top of the conversation with him, and then obviously the 2025 5-star in-state quarterback George McIntyre. He was, I'm pretty sure, down to Alabama, Tennessee. I'm thinking and I'm hoping that because of the news of Nick Saban, he is leaning hard Tennessee at this point. So stay tuned. We'll try to keep you guys updated as we know. But if we could land 2 5 stars in the next week or so, because I think they're nearing decision, that's going to be pretty freaking big for Tennessee football.
Yep. Absolutely. So anything else that you got going forward for us?
No, man, stay safe this week. It's going to get cold as crap tonight.
Yep. It's going to get cold. We got some snow and there'll be some ice because of the low temperatures. Everybody be safe. If you do have to go to work, like I will this week, be careful
Same.
out there.
It's literally my job to go out there when it freezes. So yeah, man, everybody stay safe and stay warm. Have a backup plan if you lose power. Make sure you have some secondary source of heat. I made sure the generator was full yesterday, so we made sure that we had something set in place. I encourage everybody listening to make sure you have a plan. I dropped a video on Facebook on my personal page about having that plan. So you can blow it off all you want to, but man, it happens. We see it all the time. Last year was crazy when we had a freeze, and not just a freeze, but a freeze for an extended amount of time. So just hopefully everybody stays safe, have fun in the snow. I'm thinking you guys are gonna get a lot of snow, right? Hopefully,
I've seen anywhere from 2 inches to I heard this morning 9 inches. So
let's
we don't know
go,
what
dude.
we're gonna get here. So
Get the side by sides out. Let's have some fun, man. No, I'm really hoping that everybody stays safe, but also has a good time. Kids will get out of school. It'll be fun, hopefully.
yeah.
But no, man, that's about it. Anything for you before we close this thing out?
No, you mentioned it right there. Stay safe. Have a good week this week. Watch some Tennessee basketball and stay tuned for some other news from us as well as transfer portal news in football, all that stuff. Skylar, have a good week this week, man. Stay safe, and we will see you all next Sunday.
Go Big Orange.